Alrighty. uh, what all are we looking at here? Get recentered for the next couple hours here. Looks like we've got limb damages handled. Not limb, sorry. Head. Looks like we've got the headshot handled. We've got body shots handled. That's been handled for a couple days now. And we need to get into limb. So I think that's where we're at right now. We have some estimates plotted out for what we should expect to see as limb fall off and stuff like that, as we make the certain guns take more or fewer shots than others, to see how that's gonna plot out. But for the most part, we're almost done, and then I think after this it's gonna come down to the timer's done. It's gonna come down to comparing these guns to themselves at different health values, and seeing if the meta shifts, how the meta shifts, if it does, and how these guns are performing at lower health values instead of being too focused on just 180 health, which is again my version of purple gold. So we want to compare to see how it would do against white on drop, and then against blue, and then against red as well, and see how this kind of shifts, and see if there's any guns that are situationally better than others as the game progresses, or as the game doesn't, anyway. See what's good early game, see what's good late game. Make sure that there's a small change if there is one. Make sure there should be a small change somewhere. It just kind of happens whether you plan it or not. And then make sure that the guns that we want to have good are good. Make sure that everything that should be beating things beat certain things. That's pretty much ensured with the body as well. But we are going to rank the time to kills from fastest to slowest for both limb, body, and head, and then assign each weapon an average score based off of their placement, and then that average score will tell you the rough performance of each weapon at that health value. So that way I can determine if certain guns are performing the way they're supposed to, and if there's enough overlap basically in that average performance, where if you have guns that should be doing fantastic all the time, like the R99, and then we obviously know that range is going to be a big factor in that one, and then we should have other guns like the G7 or like the longbow that are more situational and that at times can rise above, but otherwise are not going to be ideal. One sec. A little bit of news about AMC. So, looking at that. That's basically a load of nothing. That doesn't influence the short position. It's just saying, this article is just saying in fancy words that because AMC raised so much money in the sell-offs that just happened, they raised a large amount of money by selling new shares of stock to shorters, that because of all of that money, they are in a better place to pursue their business model through the pandemic. But that this article is just saying that they're still at risk of going under if the pandemic doesn't end, because their business model is not good for a pandemic, and there's not much they can do to shift that. So as long as the pandemic ends within the next, maybe 1 or 2 fiscal years, that AMC has enough to float, and they were able to repay enough debt that they could take out more loans next year if they needed to, because they were able to start repaying loans early and increase their credit score. But that if the pandemic were to last until, say, 2023, that you would see AMC in a very hard position to come out from. That's all that article is trying to say, but it has nothing to do with the shorts. that none of that is going to affect the value of the shorts or whether it's going to go up or down on Monday. I'm expecting a pretty big down on Monday. Definitely down by the end of the week. I've got money bet that AMC goes down by the end of the week, or rather GameStop goes down by the end of the week. AMC, you can make some money on it, but it's not as overinflated as GameStop, so there's a lot more potential for massive up and down swings, which means much more profit. So I've been trading GME more than AMC. But anyway, that is not Apex. So we're going to do our best to stay on topic here. But basically, for those that haven't been following the series, the colored bits are by category where we expect to see certain guns perform based on, now going off the head. Like, so we colored in basically all of the body time to kills. And then we went through and adjusted and finicked and did all the things to make those numbers a reality on this spreadsheet here. So those aren't just made up numbers. They're actually like practical time to kills that would happen mathematically if you made the rate of fire this and the damage to the body that, based off of the health and everything, that you'd get this many shots to kill, which is rounded up because obviously 15.38 means that it would take 16 shots to kill because that'd just be on 1 health, quote unquote. So, if they're full health, that's why it would take a whole nother shot. Even though the damage needed isn't that of the entire bullet, it still takes 1 more shot, which would influence the time to kill. So then we have time to kills made from here, and then that was put over here in a comparison chart. So the dark gray is all the body time to kills, the white is all of the headshot time to kills, and then this is going to be a darker gray up in here with the color, and this is our perspective limb damage kills. And so we have our headshot spreadsheet here that is very similar to the body, where this is all looking about the same, and we have our body stuff. This is equal to the body page, so that way I don't have to update everything all the time. So this is equal to the body spreadsheet. Then those body numbers here are brought through a headshot multiplier here. Those damages are calculated up here. They're inputted here to the nearest whole number from 0.5, and then that is made into the shots to kill here, which we then round up again. And then this would be the time to kill to the head if they had on drop white armor and level 1 helmet. This would be blue armor and level 2 helmet. This would be purple and gold armor with level 2 helmet, purple and gold with purple helmet, and then this would be red with purple helmet. So that would be all the different situations that we're looking at. We're looking at beginning, early game, mid game, and end game. So these are the 3 different possibilities for end game scenarios. This is the most common mid game. This is the most common early game. So this is how that meta will shift against certain targets. And then we have the same thing on the limb, where we will be applying a limb multiplier that will reduce this damage to influence this. So because there's no helmet equation, you're going to notice that over here on the head that we have 3 different versions for level 1, 2, and 3 helmet. This is because of the math, where the helmet is changing the helmet adds a multiplier to the headshot multiplier that reduces the multiplier itself. So for that, hopefully we had an explanation, I believe, on the last video, but I guess it would be worth going over now, that way you can all know the math. The math behind this is we definitely did go over this. Because I explained it as the headshot multiplier being multiplied by the integer of 1, because that's how the helmets are working. The helmets change that 1 integer into certain smaller integers to affect what's going on with the headshot multiplier. So a level 1 helmet, you take 1 and you multiply that times 0.85, and then you would add 0.15 after that, because that's a 15% reduction. So I believe in current Apex it's actually a 20% reduction. I changed that to a 15% reduction. So if you wanted to do this for current weapons, it would be 20%. So you would do 1 times 0.8, or not necessarily 1, but if the headshot multiplier, let's say it was a 1.75 headshot multiplier, which is common for assault rifles. So it'd be 1.75 times 8, and then that that digit, that integer rather, would get 0.2 added to that, and then that number, which we're going to call y, that number would be multiplied by the damage of the assault rifle. And I believe the flatline does like 19 or 18, so then you'd multiply that times 19 to get the flatline's headshot damage against a level 1 helmet. Because level 1s currently in Apex do 20%, level 2s do 40%, which would make it the headshot multiplier, which would be like, would say X for headshot multiplier times 0.6, and then you would add 0.4 to that after, because it's a 40% reduction, and then level 3s are a 50% reduction, which is just 0.5 and 0.5, and that's how you calculate the headshot damage in Apex Legends. I change those integers, or those rather headshot reductions, to 15, 30, and then 50, versus 20, 40, 50, because 40 and 50 isn't a big enough difference. So to make level 3 helmets a bit more impactful in the game, that's kind of the goal here, because most of the time I will just completely forget about getting level 3 helmet because I know it doesn't save me that much damage. So in order to help Lifeline have a shift of power and give replicators a bit more usefulness, level 3 helmets are permanently in the replicator, they're permanently in Lifeline's care package, and they're permanently in supply drops. And they're guaranteed in all 3 of those every single time. So that's my change to that system, so that the level 3 helmet can be removed from ground loot. You can always get it in a replicator, you can always get it in the Lifeline package, you can always get it in a care package. Then that will help give Lifeline a bit more of a shift of power to her ultimate, so that she can go back to her previous version with a cooldown implemented of 25 seconds. I believe I did 25 seconds of the res shield with Doc, so that cannot be spammed. That way, if a player gets knocked, they get the res shield once, and then no one else on the team for 25 seconds can get revived with the res shield or by Doc at all. She gets the 1 combat res. And then every other revive with Lifeline has to be hands-on out of combat. This is to prevent the res spamming with Lifeline, to make it a strategic move that has to happen, and not make it this infinite, like, oh, I'm gonna keep we need to get a knock, but we can't close that distance in time. You know, that whole thing. Like, Lifeline should be paired with legends who keep people at range, versus preventing the padding on of enemies. You know, the Lifeline shouldn't be able to completely save you from getting completely slapped, but it should be able to prevent people from pushing up to you, and that's what I would prefer to see. So that way, her compiled with other defensive legends like, say, Gibraltar, or like, say, Rampart, to help people keep their distance, so that if a player did get knocked, it's hard to close that gap, and she can have 1 res to help save the team to get them up in time before the distance is closed. And also that Doc revive would be a fast revive at 4.5 seconds instead of 6. So that's the other benefit of it only being a one-off per se, every 25 seconds. And so that way, and the same way that gold mags have a little like indicator that say gun reloaded, that would be the same indicator, but it would just say Doc ready. It's super simple. So it's just utilizing stuff that's already in their system and just changing that around a bit. So anyway, we went ahead and did headshots, we went ahead and did body, and now we're on limb, and we have to figure out about where we want limb time to kills, and I'm gonna need anymore. I can start writing down the approximate times for this stuff, because we're gonna want to have targets in mind before we start going into the spreadsheet and just making numbers up. We want to have a rough idea of what we're doing here. So, go ahead and rewrite some of this stuff down on the paper. R9, Alt, Prowler, RE, Alt, Havoc, Line, R3, L-Star. Start with those guys. And so the R9 we want to have at 0.95 to 0. The alternator, we want 1.05 to 1.09 rather. Then the prowler is going to be 1.15. The RE is actually nothing because it doesn't have limb or headshot multipliers. I forgot about that. The volts is going to be the same as the prowler. Volts is the prowler. The havoc is going to be 1.14. And that's the havoc with no burst delay, which is also double tap, so you have to keep spamming the trigger. And don't forget, it has an 11.2 fire rate, which means you're going to have to pull the trigger about 6 times a second to get the havoc to get that fast of a time to kill, which is going to be pretty hard to do. It's going to be around the same as using a P2020. So if you can fire the P2020 at max rate of fire, then that's what the havoc double tap is going to be. But there's going to be a good amount of players that can't quite maintain that 6 per second. So it'll be interesting to see how it's going to leave the havoc to be a bit more dependable, but still a little unpredictable. It's going to be a bit more of a skill weapon that can do well if used correctly. So and havoc double tap also includes havoc pre-fire, where if you hold down the trigger without double tap to get rid of the open bolt delay, then it would kill that quickly in full auto. So there's the 2 ways to use the havoc. And then over here, this is the havoc with no bolt delay compensated for. So if you just pull the trigger in the open, it would take 1.38 seconds to kill. But if you can get rid of that open bolt delay, then it would take 1.01 seconds. It should be exactly 300 milliseconds difference, but I don't know why it isn't. So we'll have to see why it's not exactly 300 milliseconds in difference. It should be exactly 300 milliseconds, but I guess for some reason it isn't. I don't know why it wouldn't. It should be. That's worth double checking, by the way, so we'll have to come back to that. And then the flat line, I have killing in 1.25 to 1.29. The R301 is the same. The L star is 1.3 to 1.34. And the hemlock, I have at 1.45. 0.49. Bit more, a bit slower rest. And that should do. And the goal is just to increase the number of shots to kill, which is the point here. So you notice the hemlock doesn't have nearly as big of a punishment for missing as it does opportunity for the head. This is because if the hemlock was too high up here, it just would be completely useless, and you'd be forced to be too accurate. This is already slow enough. That's fine. This just means that the hemlock to the limbs and only to the legs and only to the legs would kill faster than like a devotion or the new gun about the same time, but faster than a 2020 to the body. It'd kill faster than a devotion to the body if you don't pre-fire. If you don't pre-fire, it would beat it. It would tie the 30-30 to the body if you hit the hemlock only to the legs. You'd beat the G7, you'd beat the flatline anvil, you beat the triple take, you beat all the snipers if you use the hemlock to the legs. If I didn't have it right there, then you would be potentially getting beaten by or tying the snipers to the body that you would be to the legs. And so although that would be a punishment for accuracy, generally speaking, I don't want any of the ARs being too handily beaten by long range guns up close. And so up close, those long range guns should have a pretty good time hitting body shots. And so I want to make sure that even if you're using a hemlock and even if you only hit leg shots, as long as you're hitting the shots, you're going to have a very good chance of coming out alive. So that's where that's coming from. So that's why the hemlock is going to have a reduced limb fall off than the rest of them would, because to the legs, I keep saying limb because it makes more sense, but it is actually just the waist down. Shooting someone in the arm does do body damage, so it is just legs down, or rather hip down. That is what would qualify as leg damage or limb damage per se. But I'm gonna say limb because it makes more sense to me, and it's just how my brain works. But it is just from the hip down in Apex Legends. Um, then we just go into here. And so now we've got all these equations ready to go. These are just fake numbers to get everything going. And we're going to hop in here and try to get this to be the case. And so going from here, we're going to start with the 180 health pool. And we're going to start with figuring out how many shots to kill would make that statement true. And 14 shots is 0.94, which is what it currently kills, and 15 would make it 1 second. So it would just take one extra shot to the leg, which is kind of the point of the R9. So having it go up to 1 is more than acceptable. So a 15 shot kill means it has to do 12 damage. So this would go to 12. And then for that to go to 12, I'm assuming this would be like a 0.8 multiplier. Nope, it's going to be even less than that. 0.9. Yeah, like 0.95. Yeah, 0.95 is enough to make that go to 12 rounding down, which also would make that go to 10 rounding down. So that could even get a little bit lower just to help the code really make sure that that's a 10 and 12. So 0.93. So that'll do that. And then we just kind of go in here and do 18, 20, 17, 14. Whoops, not that, because that is an actual equation. Just do 12 and 14. There we go. And that's it. That's it. And then those numbers are automatically put onto the limb print document. And so this is a separate page that is the printout version of what I just put up there. And so that way I don't use as much color and I use less ink. So this is easier to work in for me. This is nice and vibrant, sectioned off, color coded, stuff like that. But I don't want to print that. So I have it going to a separate worksheet that is our setup yesterday. Did this last night. And this will go from 140 all the way to 200 and catch up. And it even has track of what the limb multiplier is. It doesn't do aim down sight time, but body that does. No, it doesn't. None of these do aim down sight time. I thought I had one of these doing aim down sight time. Nope, but the headshot one does multiplier, the body. This has ADS time included in it, so it doesn't really matter too much. But I think I had one that was the detailed build. This has ADS time put into it. But this is all the old data that I haven't redone yet. So this is all the work that I did before going into all that stuff. And so this was for headshots. This was for... oh, this is headshots too. I guess this is just a different page. I don't know why there's that big gap here. Must have been a different page. But yeah, this is like a whole shitload of data that I had all, made. So this was for 140 and no health. This was the head, the body, limb. 160 with level 1 helmet, head, body, limb, and then 180 level 2. And then also level 3. So that's why we had 2 heads. This was level 2, this was level 3, and then this was 200 health at level 3 helmet. And that's what the time to kills would have been with certain guns. But that's all old work. None of this is gonna stick around. This is season 7 work with hammer points and stuff like that. So this is all gonna have to change. Some of the TTKs are just way too low rather, and that's a hard one to read because it was for print as well. I wanted to be able to print off that really big sheet because my dad has an architectural printer. So to be able to print that on that printer, it's actually readable and usable. But that on my little like 8.5 by 11 printer is like so small that you need like a magnifying glass just to see it. So that was the plan for that. But I don't think that detailed build is going to be necessary. I think there's the comparison breakdowns will be enough because most of this data is viewable and viable as compartments. You don't necessarily have to see all of it at the same time as long as I know what's going on, and then I can put it all together per gun for videos for you guys when this is done versus having to do all of it. Like it's a lot of work. So anyway, And as things are finalized, I'll start compiling all that data per gun, likely in a different spot, likely a whole separate document with a spreadsheet for each weapon. That'll likely be the case, because this guy's just too chunky to add in a tab for every single gun, because there's like 25 different tabs for all these guns with attachments and everything. So we won't be doing that on this document, but we will likely be doing that on a different document to help. That'll help with the video making process and all that as well. So to be able to have the chart comparisons and all that kind of stuff, and muzzle velocity graphs, and ADS times, reload times, time to kills as it goes, overall rankings compared to other weapons and stuff like that. You know, all the important notes, list of pros and cons, and you know, where it's expected to fit in the meta, where it would do well, where it would do poor, what would beat it in certain circumstances and stuff like that. Like all of that data is important. So I'll have to compile all that for each gun at the end. But that is a shitload of work, so we're not going to worry about that right now. Next, so this is good. Now that this one is fine, then we just want to deal with the fallout here. Like this is what I'm balancing for. I'm balancing for the most common endgame fight. That's what I'm balancing for. I don't want you know, I want there to be the options and the dynamic at endgame, and then let everything else just kind of build up to that. So that you have this kind of suspense, or maybe you have guns that do fantastic early game that you need to get rid of by end game, that kind of thing. And so right now, the way Apex does that is just by having some really shitty guns at the end game level, and then early game, because of the lower health pool, those weapons do better because there's less health. But what that also means is that comparatively, the end game guns do even better up close, so do even better early game. Then so there's still that disparity, right? Like if you just give an early game gun an end game time to kill, then that's all that really happens there. And so there's not really a whole lot of ways to counter that, but the easiest way is for low rate of fire guns with the health pool that have low rate of fire, maybe higher damages, where you introduce through you know, the health evolution, where it starts to take multiple extra shots to kill, and then that would slow down the TTK to be you know, well beyond what the end game guns would be, while letting it have a competitive early game time to kill, because of the number of shots it would take to kill. Like if you had a super slow rate of fire gun that took 2 shots, then that could have a competitive time to kill, and then that third shot could make it like super, like the third shot could make it maybe just behind everything else, and then the fourth shot would make it well behind everything else. And you could think of that with the Sentinel, where early game the Sentinel has that amazing 2-shot potential, which it actually doesn't even have that. If you amped it, it would have that. But like an amped Sentinel would have great 2-shot potential, but once you start needing that third, fourth shot, you're well behind the time to kill, well behind the average time to kill. And so you could think of that, or like the Odin in Modern Warfare. The Odin is that heavy-hitting, slow rate of fire gun. Missing shots with that ruins your advantage, or them having extra armor plates ruins your advantage. So it's that same kind of idea. So that's a way. You can't be the only way, but it's a way to do that. It's not, you wouldn't only want to do that, but it's a way that you could do that. The other way is just, God, I don't even know how I would describe the other way, or even if I can think of another way right now. But that's an obvious way to do it. There's bound to be dozens of ways to do this, but I don't really think about how I should do it. I think about more about what they should be. I think of target time to kills and then do the math to get there, not necessarily think of ways to manipulate the meta into it shifting. And then as long as once I finish this work, I'm going to make sure that the meta does shift sufficiently. And if it doesn't, then I'll try to come up with a way to get 1 or 2 guns to, you know, do that retroactively. But it's not necessarily something that I'm thinking of right now. I'm not being that proactive and like knowing exactly where this is going to go. It's just more like I have a rough idea where this should fit for body, and I'm going to let that mold around head and and everything else. Because realistically, especially for, I mean, I know that they want to make this super competitive. They want this to be an esport, but every game is supported by their casual audience. It's not supported by the esport audience. So, um, you know, that the casual people and the whales that are buying all the microtransactions. That's who supports the game. So that I realistically, that's where I'm gonna gear the game toward more average gamers, and so letting average gamers have the evenness of the body time to kills while using head and limb shots to make it more of a skill game. That's kind of the goal here. So by allowing certain weapons to excel with headshots and then do horrible with limb shots, and then have other weapons have no limb and damage, have no headshot damage or no limb damage, that kind of thing, where there's that's what the RE45 is. The RE45 and the triple take, the triple take, it's going to have a damage reduction and a headshot multiplier, but it's not going to be enough to influence the shot to kill, so the time to kill is always the same. The RE45 doesn't have a headshot multiplier, it doesn't have a limb fall off because it always does the same base damage, so it's a more consistent weapon. The what else was it? I think the 30, no, 30, never mind. That's basically it. I think it was the Sentinel with anvils. At this point in stage, it's still always going to be a 2-shot headshot to full health. Obviously, there's going to be circumstances with not full health where it will be a 1-shot headshot, but that's not something that I'm like worried about. Like, I'm not trying to plan for that. I'm trying to plan for it's against full health enemies. And using any high damage weapon against a not full health enemy is always going to produce a super fast time to kill. There's nothing I can do about that because it's just you'd just have to get rid of high damage guns. It's no different than when you shoot someone with a wingman and they take one less shot than they're supposed to. You're like, damn, I killed that guy really quick. It's because they took one less shot. And so it happens with the longbow. It happens with the G7 sometimes. Happens with the triple take all the time. They're high damage weapons, and so when they are not against full health enemies, they feel super fucking overpowered. But against full health targets, you're still going to lose. Like that's kind of the point here, is to allow some weapons to shine a bit better against full health targets while still letting them shine the same way that they have against low health targets. That's kind of how it goes. If someone's not full health and you do a Sentinel headshot and it does 126 damage, and then that's fantastic. I just have the Sentinel headshot, I think, around the same. And then if they have anvils, I have it doing like close to 160. So it's just anvils are going to do what anvils do and help increase that body damage. It's not a 2x by any means, but it's a 1.28 to be specific. I have the Sentinel without anvils at 85, the Sentinel with anvils at 115. Severe reduction to rate of fire. And then headshotting for around 160. Anyway, limb alternator, shots to kill. Write down this. Alternator is at 1.05 to 1.09, which I'm assuming is going to be okay. 10, yeah, 1.08. That's fine. The Prowler is at 1.15 to 1.19. That'll do. Oh no, 1.15. Never mind. Okay, 1.18. The volts, it's going to be the same thing. Yep, that'll do. And then the Havoc with double tap, we need to have it around to 1.1 thing. Okay, close. 1.17. Yeah, I'd rather have that go to 1. Fine. Flatline to the limb and the and the R3. Flatline and R3 are both around there. 1.25. Yeah, 1. The R301. 1.26. That's just fine too. The L star I have at 1.3 to 1.34. Okay. And the hemlock I have at 1.45 to 1.49. Yeah, that's too high. 1.43 will do just fine. Alrighty, now we just go in and get those multipliers right, fill in all the rest of the numbers, and keep on chugging. Super easy. So a 10-shot kill off my cheat sheet says I have to go to 18. The 14 shot says I have to go to 13. Oh, nope, 14. Oh, no, 13. Yeah, 14 shot, so 13. There we go. The volt at 12 means it has to do 15 or 16, so we'll do 15 to the thing. That can go up to 16. The havoc at 11 means it has to do 17. Flatline at 11 has to do 17. The R301 at 14 has to do 13. And the L star at 9 has to do 20 to 22. So we'll put that high at 22. Let the L star have a... Oh, no, never mind. We'll put that down to 20. It does 23. We'll give it a worse fall off. That'll make the fortified times go to the toilet too. And then the hemlock at 10 shots has to do 18. So those are the options there. So alternator has to be 18, so we have to find a multiplier that makes 20 into 18, which is 0.9. So that's perfect, which means fortified is 15 damage. So we just go through and do all of this again. And again, that'll get compared to the rest of the guns on the print version, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Yeah. Anyway, we're just going to keep chugging here. So 13 for 15. We're going to try 0.9 again. Not quite. 0.8. Not quite. 0.85. That'll do, but we'll do 0.87. Yeah, 0.87. And then that'll go to 11. So 16, 19, 14, 17, 13, 15, 11, and 13. And that'll do just fine. Again, remember, Prowler's ground loot, Alternator's heirloom, so that's good. We're going to want that disparity. The volts at 15. This doesn't have to be 15, but it does 17, so I think we probably want it to be 15 versus 16. We'll try 0.9. That was basically enough. How about 0.88? 0.89. We'll do 0.9 because that'll be enough to round up to 13 for fortified, which will help the volts compete a bit more with the other SMGs. We don't want the fortified to be too far behind if we can help it. So now this is 1.06 with the alternators 1.08. So now the volt can beat that in that scenario, but then it starts winning. Yeah, so still winning. Then now it starts losing, and then there it ties, and that's a care package gun. So we can see that here it loses, here it ties, here it in both those scenarios it wins. So oh no, it doesn't. It wins here. Yeah. Oh no, it loses there. Loses there. Sorry, I'm losing it. I'm looking at the wrong numbers. It loses here, and then ties here. So tie, loss, loss, win. That's the shift that we're talking about there. It's very minute, but it's still good that it's there. And we don't want to discredit that it's there. That's gonna be bad. So now looking up here, we've got 0.94 and 1.06. That's a good difference. That's a good difference. This is getting closer, then that's getting closer. So if we had this at 12 damage, then this would be even further out. And this is good that it's behind, because that's the goal, right? It obviously can't be the same, because then it'd be getting either no limb reduction or a buff. So it's going to be slower. We're not expecting the Volt to suddenly win. But even though that this is the ranged precision one, we want to emphasize the fact that they have closer or close-ish limb fall-offs, so that well, you know what? I do want it to have a closer limb fall off, but at the same time, this is supposed to be more of a precision weapon that has better range. So it being a bit more punishing to the limb is not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't want it to be so punishing that the ARs are competition and start beating it, because 1.31 to the limbs is already slower, at least for fortified. Well, at 1.15 see, this is where we want to look at here. So 1.15 is already here to the limbs. So that's exactly where we want it. So we're getting into AR category. If it went another shot, it'd probably be closer to here or here. And then you're getting beat to the body by some ARs. That's not necessarily what I want. I don't want all of the ARs to be good against the Volt. I just want some of them to be good against the Volt. So it is better for it to be here and not get so much of a punishment. That way, even to the leg, it's still very competitive with ARs. And then the Fortified is all the way up here. That's a pretty long time to kill against Fortified. But some of these time to kills are way up here for Fortified too. So this is where we just want the point of reference. So this should be good. This should be fine. I should do the same chart against Fortified health as well, just to make sure that this is going the way that it's supposed to. So we'll likely do the same thing and do a white-gray for just body to Fortified and not Fortified, to make sure that there's the same curve or see what beats it. But for now, that's the only comparison we're doing. Right, so that goes down to 15, that goes up to 13. This is all handled. Time to kill written down. Havoc with double tap means 11, which means it has to be 17. So that's not a huge nerf. 18 to 17 is not big. That's like just going to be, yeah, that's like 0.95 again. Yeah. Not huge. That doesn't, but again, this is a benefit of the Havoc. So for those of you going like, that's not nearly enough. Well, this is the benefit of using the Havoc. It is more consistent than before, but at the same time, you're dealing with that open bolt delay. You're always going to be fighting that open bolt, or you're always going to be fighting yourself with double tap. So there are other downsides to the Havoc that make it not necessarily where it can be fantastic, but there's enough downsides that you have people who prefer the R301 or prefer the Flatline and will do well with those guns, especially against the Havoc. But it won't be so shitty that the Havoc isn't usable. You will have success in usability with the Havoc, and you will have people who prefer it over the rest because they're willing to put up with the high rate of fire that you have to pull if you have double tap, or they're willing to put up with the open bolt delay because it gives them the option to kill faster than every AR and LMG in the game. You know, basically the Havoc can beat everything except SMGs. That's the point of the Havoc. The Havoc, if you pre-fire, will beat everything but SMGs. So that is the but that's the trade-off though. If you don't pre-fire, you're losing to most of the guns in the game. But if you do, you're winning. And then you've got the double tap to take care of that. Right now, the Havoc is very similar. The Havoc with turbo, which just means if you pre-fire, we're killing 1.28 seconds, which is 100 milliseconds behind the SMGs. But the issue is that is only 20 milliseconds behind the Flatline, right? So there's not a big enough difference between the Flatline and the Havoc pre-fire, but I widen that gap to 100 milliseconds. So I give it, SMG time to kill on pre-fire, and then I give the Flatline like the best AR time to kill that is a sizable amount behind the Havoc. So 90 milliseconds is enough, and 90 milliseconds here too. So you've got, especially between the R301 and the Havoc, you now have a much larger gap than you do currently in Apex. Currently in Apex, the R301 is 1.34 with the Havoc at 1.28. So it's a 60 millisecond difference between the two, which is already that's 2/3 of the gap that I have between the Flatline and the Havoc itself. So for the 180 millisecond gap now between the R301 and the Havoc, that's the same as the gap between the R301 and the R99. that's how big of a gap that is. If to put that in perspective, the same way that you think the R301 isn't as good as the R9 because the R9 kills faster and noticeably faster, that is now the Havoc and R301 difference, where you have a notable difference between them, and it's not going to be it's not going to be as close of a fight. It's going to lean heavily more toward the Havoc, especially when you get into the next energy gun, which is the L-Star. The L-Star is at 1.23, but has no wind-up time and no weird gimmick like the Devotion and the Hemlock. The Havoc. And the L-Star I have beating the Devotion, even if the Devotion pre-fires, and I have it being that consistent middle of the road energy gun that it should have been in the first place. So it fills the gap of an energy gun in the middle of everything. And on top of that, the L-Star has an LMG level ADS time, which is factored into the time to kill. So if you ADS around a corner, then you're doing even better. So the L-Star is going to feel amazing because it's a 450 millisecond ADS time, which is going to be a huge advantage with the L-Star if you're already aiming down sight and taking what is going to be a very slow movement speed penalty. So, you're going to have mobility issues for sure, but you will have a fantastic time to kill if you're already ADS. And that's going to be the same with all LMGs. All LMGs will have a fantastic TTK if you're not aimed down sight. I mean, if you are aimed down sight, but if you're not, then you're going to struggle for sure. But like the A10 here, that would have a 1 second time to kill, which is all the way down here if you are ADS before that corner. And this is where the SMGs need to come into play, where it's not a guarantee, but you're competing with SMGs if you're aiming down sight before you go around that corner. So that's kind of going to be the pro and con. You're going to have a lot more guns be a lot more viable, basically. And we need to go through and see about time to kills if you're already aimed down sight with all of the guns, because the R9 is the same way. This guy has a 0.22 second ADS time, so that would mean from 0.94 it would go all the way down to 0.74 if you're already aimed down sight. So for those of you that are going, but then the A10 kills as fast as the R9. Like, not if the R9 is ADS too. On the same playing field, they have the same difference. Well, not the same difference, because that has if they're both ADS, then the gap is closed. It's closer together. It's a smaller gap, which was kind of the point. So it's more of an even playing field if both players are already aimed down sight. But if neither is aimed down sight, there's going to be a huge advantage toward SMGs. Huge. But there's still, between 0.74 and 1, that's still a massive difference. The R9 is still going to be the clear victor for sure. So you're not going to have, like all these fights where like you're so close between LMGs and SMGs, because the SMG should still, even with with both targets ADS, they should still be very far ahead. And if we need to widen that gap, then we will. But I also don't want, like, right now, like it feels like even like if you aim down sight with the Spitfire, and then you're like, if you have the Spitfire or the Devotion and you're already ADS, you're already taking advantage, you're already removing the penalties that LMGs have, that you can be like jump shot, jump peaked by an R9 that isn't even ADS, and then still like shredded, so it's super annoying that, like, if I do the LMG things right and I play it the best to its best ability, do everything you're supposed to do with LMGs to make up for all those downsides, that you still just get shit on with the SMGs. And that's also what I don't want. So for those of you that are going like, but the SMG should always win, it's like, well, should it really? Should it really always win? Should it always be such a clear fight? Shouldn't we have closer fights, still favoring the LMG? Sorry, favoring the SMG. But LMGs are not supposed to be bullet sponge guns. They're supposed to be strong, powerful weapons with clear-cut downsides in mobility and quick decision making, not horrible guns overall, right? Like, LMGs are supposed to be more of the stayed back, defensive, stationary targets that are already like aimed down sight, scoped, locked, like getting rid of all of the bad things about them to make them be the amazing guns that they are, not like just guns that have massive mag capacities and are got dog shit at everything else, and that even if you do all the things right, that it takes so long to get a kill that the an Octane can just jump pad next to you and then boom, you're dead, because you have to then unaim down sight and then re-aim down sight. Like there's just nothing you can do. So I do think that LMGs, if they're played the way LMGs are supposed to, should perform well. I think they should have a competitive time to kill if they're already aimed down sight. I think they should have a competitive time to kill if they're stationary and not moving. Like there's a lot of things that hinder LMGs the way that SMGs just don't, which is what's supposed to happen. But I see so many people getting upset when LMGs play the entrenched playstyle that those guns are designed to do. And then they're like, oh, you need to nerf that. I shouldn't have died. Like, yes, you should have. Like, yes, 100% you should have. You can't just wander around the map and like just expect to go around every single corner without checking or peeking and then like run into an LMG and just walk away okay. Like, that's not how this works. So realistically, even if I do the comparison of both targets ADS'd, I'm probably not going to care if there's 100 millisecond difference between LMGs like the L-Star and the R9. Because right now, I can tell you, like, we can just do that right now. The L-Star has a 1.23. Minus a 0.45 puts it at 0.78. Right? That's the same as an R9. 0.94 minus 0.22, 0.72. Okay? That's a 60 millisecond difference. If both are ADS'd. I don't care. Because that gives the L-Star a goddamn place in the meta so that it can be an effective gun. If you're already aimed down sight, that's a fantastic time to kill. But if you're caught in the open, if you're doing dumb shit, if you're using an LMG like an SMG, you're gonna die. But if you're not, kudos to you. You played the game right. It's just fair. That is fair. Because it's a 60 millisecond difference that still favors the R9. If both were perfectly accurate, the L-Star guy's one shot and the R9 guy's one shot and the R9 guy wins. So in a straight up 1v1, you win that. That's still, if it was a 1v1 at endgame, the R9 guy is still going to have a better chance of winning. It's not going to just immediately favor the L-Star guy because he's aimed down sight. But if you're not aimed down sight, then it might. But what you need to remember is that if you make him move, if you make the L-Star guy move, he has a worse sprint to fire speed. He has a worse movement speed while ADS. I'm debating about giving him a worse movement speed overall. That whole thing. There's ways to play that to force that encampment. And if you get caught in the ring pole, then maybe you didn't position well enough. That doesn't mean it's the gun's fault. Doesn't mean that the gun's overpowered. Maybe you just did something wrong. Right? So that's how I feel about that. And to go with the R3, the R301 1.19 has a 300 millisecond time to kill. That's very competitive as well. 0.89, very competitive. If even an R3 is already ADS'd, that's the same as an R9 to the head if you didn't ADS yet. Like that's still very competitive and fast time to kill, and it's rewarding for position in that play style. And I don't want those time to kills to be if they're already aimed down sight. Like that's I could have that be if they're already ADS, but then that doesn't really like help much. Like it's not practical. Like most players are not always scope locked every second of the game. Like that pre-ADSing is a tool that can be used and must be learned about how it's to your advantage. It is not by any means a guaranteed win. Like you can't just spend an entire fight like ADS in corners, because you're going to have people, completely moving around you. Like I want this to include the aim down sight time because that's realistic. It's what most players are going to do, right? Like it's up to you to not over peak. It's up to you to let you have that advantage of getting to peek from a corner already aimed down sight and try to catch them in the open. That's already in Apex right now as a massive advantage. That, like, I'm not going to get rid of that, and there's not really a way to get rid of that unless you made all the guns have the same ADS time, which would be dumb. So I'm going to factor in 2 targets in the open, pulling, clicking right click or pulling left trigger and then pulling right trigger at the same time. That's what these time to kills are, because that's how you know that without a doubt something beats something else every time. That's what I want to know. I want to know what will beat something every single time. And this is what will beat something else every single time, assuming that they're doing the exact same thing. Where you're going to have guns over or underperform is if you're doing them in the wrong situations. If you're being a dumb fuck, then congratulations, your gun isn't going to help you. That's just where it comes in. So, and Frank, the R301, by the way, right now, it has a 1.34 time to kill. Okay, that means it's got a 0.3 ADS time. It's 1.04 minus my 0.89 is 150 millisecond buff. That's the equivalent of it taking 1 less shot to kill. Okay, it's not like I'm completely breaking the game by letting the R3 kill in under 1 second. It just means that in all in realistic proportions here, what this means is that it's a one shot less to kill. I've got the R301 right here. Okay, 10 shots is 1.2, 9 shots is 1.1. Oh, that's the flat line. R301 here. 12 and 13, 1.34 to 1.11. Oh, sorry, 1.19. That's an 80 millisecond difference. So the R301 would kill maybe 2 shots faster. That's not going to break Apex because it says 0.89 and you're like, oh, I like Apex's long time to kill. Dude, it's just the R301's going to kill 2 shots faster. That's it. That's all that's happening. It's not this huge, massive rework. This is the most minor change that would help the game. I'm keeping the long time to kill because Apex has a very long time to kill. It's still going to be a long time to kill, but I'm shifting power from certain guns and letting other guns be useful, especially under the circumstances of them being already aimed down sight. That's all this is. I really don't want people to freak out over this because realistically, like I said, the R301 is going to kill 2 shots faster. That's it. That's all that's happening. It's just 2 shots. It's not this huge, massive, scary thing. It looks like it because like this chart is like, wow, those numbers are all really close together, and like, wow, that's so much lower than what it is now because it's all the way up here at 1.34. Rah. Like it's not that big of a difference. It's not that big a deal. It's enough to help guns be useful. It's enough to help with some third parties. It's enough to help fights end faster. You think about how many times you had someone, one shot with an R3, that's not going to happen. Every time that you shoot, you beam someone with an R3 and they're like 2 shots away from dying, 1 shot away from dying, then you already won. That's all it would be, is that you would have just gotten the kill. That's the difference. It's not going to take, way less shots. It's not going to, it's not going to be so much faster that you're like running around going like, it's just going to feel better. It's going to feel snappier. It's going to feel more responsive. It's going to feel like your actions did something versus just like, oh, I cracked him. Hey, let's rotate. That's the difference. Because right now it's just like, oh, I did a lot of damage. He's cracked versus like, oh, hey, maybe this guy's actually kind of one shot right now because I cracked him and, got some extra shots on him. So he's, 2 shots now versus what would have been 4 shots. So, that's... Anyway, I need to stop because I'm worried about the backlash. All right, guys. Like, I know that it's been a fun project. I like doing this and I want to see these changes to Apex, but there are so many people that, especially since I went on Twitter. Oh my God, I can't stand Twitter. Like it's weirdly addicting, but there's so many people that don't understand how or why this would help, and they don't care about understanding, so they shut themselves out and say that all these mean things and all these idiotic things, or they just reject it in general. And those kind of comments and those people are why Apex is why it is. Like, Respawn listens to them, and they shouldn't, because they don't understand what you're doing. So don't listen to them, right? Like, uh, if there's people who are attempting to understand, that's awesome, fantastic. Help them. If there's people who do understand that have a different opinion, take it into consideration, right? But the people that don't care about learning, that don't want to learn, and just look at all this shit and say you're going to ruin my game, fuck off, because it's their favorite game and they don't want it to change, well, they're not helping your game get to a point where maybe it could be more competitive, or maybe you'd have a bigger player base. I'm already kind of counting myself as no longer an Apex player. I don't feel like playing it anymore. And so if they did these things, I would go back to it and give it a try and probably love it. But it's gotten too boring and too repetitive, and I want to go play other games. That's what it comes down to. Is that Apex? It's not because of a lack of content, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of guns compared to the other games that I've played, but there's enough guns. It's just that the meta isn't diverse enough. So there's 23 guns in the game, but only 4 of them are good. So why would I stick around for the other 17 guns, or 19 guns, when I have to keep using the same 4 every fucking game? It doesn't, like, because this is what would make it, like, this lets you use most of the guns in the meta. There becomes a place and time for all of these guns instead of just 4 of these guns. And so if I could go into Apex and have success sniping, if I could go into Apex and have success with LMGs other than just the fucking Spitfire, and then all the hate around that gun in the first place, like, goddamn, and then be able to go in and maybe use a Hemlock again without it having to be broken. Like, maybe that would be a thing. Maybe that you could just make it a balanced weapon instead of complete trash or completely fucking broken. Maybe that would be something that you could do. Helping the wingman lower the skill ceiling so you don't have to hit nothing but headshots to kill competitively. Like, good lord. I mean, a 1.73, 1.77 time to kill to the body if you hit nothing but body shots, that's egregious. It's a handgun with 9 shots. Why are you punishing me like that? Like, there's no reason for it to be that slow. Like, it has a competitive time to kill if you hit headshots, and then it's as slow as the same speed as a volt to the body. So why would I go through that? Why would I use the wingman to kill in the same as a goddamn volt to the chest if it's a 700 millisecond difference if I don't? That's like, there's no reward for that. It's just like, oh, I did good. Okay, pat myself on the back, move on. Like, I don't know. For me, it's more of a meme gun. It's more of like, hey, I'm going to show you how much better I am than you. I'm going to use a wingman. I did that in COD, Like, that's... The handguns didn't have great time to kill, so if you could beat someone with those, then it was like, haha, you suck. But, like, the wingman is such a cool and interesting handgun that it doesn't have to be that. Like, handguns don't have to be that. Like, it's the big, heavy ammo, small mag handgun. Let's have it be usable. It's like the revolver handgun in PUBG, or like in Bad Company 2, I think it was the M45 or something. Like, typically in Battlefield, the really big magnums are actually pretty useful and can be used again to beat or compete with assault rifles. So some of them were even one-shot headshots. That's a thing. Like, just because it's a handgun doesn't mean it sucks. Anyway, there's a lot of things that I like about other games that Apex doesn't do, and it's been 2 years. So Apex either needs to do those things, or I'm just gonna go. And if they're happy with me going, then I'll go and I'll shut up about it. But at the same time, I think it's possible. I'd like to see if I could do it, and so this is me attempting to do it. That's all this is. It's just I'd like to try my hand at shifting out the weapon meta, smoothing it out, and doing my best to do what, in my opinion, would save Apex for me. This is what would save Apex for me. If you wanted me to stay, and I think I speak for other Battlefield players. I should hope that I speak for other COD players that would like to see a better, faster time to kill in Apex, to let it take competition from others. This is it, because if Halo just announced that it's doing a free-to-play multiplayer, And Halo, historically, has been a longer time to kill multiplayer that really easily could steal people from Warzone and Apex, like very fucking easily. Like I would happily go to Halo over Apex because Halo usually has a fantastic weapon meta and everything feels pretty damn good most of the time. So granted, it's been a long time since I played Halo. I think the last Halo I played was like ODST. So like historically for me, like especially with Halo 1 and Halo 2 multiplayers, like those felt fantastic. So actually, does Halo 1 even have multiplayer? I played the campaign. The campaign felt great. I loved the Halo 1 campaign. Halo 2, I played hella multiplayer. That felt great all the time too. And then I played a little bit of 3 with my brother, ODST, and then he played till like Halo 4, and he never had any complaints about that multiplayer. But he wasn't as picky as I am, so that probably says something. But anyway, I'd be more than happy to go try Halo out and do that instead of Apex. Realistically, knowing that Halo's going to have a free to play multiplayer, I may never pick Apex back up. You know, if they don't make some serious, meaningful changes to their weapon meta, I may never come back. So, and that's not what I want to do. I don't want to do that, but like they're making me. They've been pushing me away for 2 years, and so they still have me. They have me because there's no other content. There's no other games worth it. So I'm here, trying to make this game worth it because that's how little other content there is that is worth it. That it's easier to save this game than go somewhere else. But I would really love to see this game do well, and I'd really love to see this game continue to be a staple of my gaming experience, but that's just not going to happen if it stays the way that it is, and if they keep going in the direction that they've been going. I have been fairly unhappy with the direction of Apex for quite some time now, so I don't exactly plan on sticking around for it to get better, because I did that with Battlefield for too long. I stuck around waiting for Battlefield to get better for fucking ages, and I'm done. I don't wait for Battlefield to get better either. I bought some of the old ones because they've got all the content out now, because the super old ones had amazing weapon metas. But the new one, I probably won't get on release. I would love to play it. It looks like I would likely enjoy the game, but realistically, I have no hope for it. I think it will likely be a pretty damn good game, but the new operator system, I don't trust yet. I want to see more gameplay of that. I've seen some gameplay, and it looks like it may not be the worst, but I am absolutely going to be waiting for opinions from like Angry Joe, from I think Stone Mountain's going to do one, Jack Frags is going to do one, likely see one from Tomographic too. You know, I'm gonna wait around and do the same thing that most of you guys do and see what other content creators think. I'll dip my toe in too as another skeptical Battlefield player, and then we'll move through that together and see if it's worth it and if they've lived up to what they're supposed to. And I don't know, man. It never releases with enough guns anymore. I'll tell you that right now. I'm fully expecting the what is this is 1.3? Yeah, 1.3 is up here. I'm fully expecting the new Battlefield to release with too few guns. Completely expecting and planning on that. That will be a reason for me not to buy it. If it releases with too few guns, especially now that it's a modern era thing, they have no excuse. The last modern Battlefield that I played a lot of, that at launch had 88 weapons, and that was released in 2010. So it's 10 years later, 11 years later, we have a lot more fucking guns with some of the staples still being used. So they have no goddamn excuse for not having enough weapons in this game. And given the fact that they had 3 years, 4 years to develop this game, they have even less of an excuse for how many guns are in this game. So I am not going to pull any punches because they've had almost twice as long to make this game. And so if it's not twice as good, if it's not the same as Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, because those are what it's going to be compared to, then they fucked it and they screwed the pooch, and I probably won't buy it, realistically, because it just won't be worth the money. I'm not sitting through another goddamn live service. If they want to release a full fucking game and then support it for 2 years, I'm there every time. But they keep releasing this half or third baked content and then expect 2 years to make up for the amount of time for it to get back to where it should have been at launch. I mean, do you remember Battlefield 5? They legit called that shit launch edition on year 2 because that was the truth. Call of Duty World War II never fucking finished itself because it did so shitty at launch that the next planned release of the content is now getting turned into the new Call of Duty game. All you COD fans out there that played World War II, that saw that it was half of a fucking battle, half of a world war, guess what your Call of Duty this year is going to be? It's the other fucking half of COD World War II. It's the other half they couldn't finish. That's the other COD game coming out this year. Like, that is the consequence of this live service mentality, without, to the point that when a game doesn't get to finish, that becomes the goddamn next game in the franchise. They just re-released that for $60 when it was supposed to be part of the other $60 game in the first place. Like, it's insane. It's asinine to see this stuff going on, and I just it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. To the limb that needs to be worse. 1.55? Jesus, 1.55. That's way up there. But that's also not bad enough. Like, I was really hoping to have that higher up, but what? It's not super punishing to the leg, but I guess that would be a benefit. That leg shots really don't affect your time to kill too much. It's a pretty similar leg shot time to kill, and it's still ahead of other guns to the body, which is the point. 1.55 puts it, that's to the point where we just talked about this earlier, that puts it to a shitty spot where we don't want it. So that can't be a thing, but it kind of needed to be, but whatever. Okay, 17. Anyway, it's just I love gaming. It's one of my favorite things, and content creation has been an awesome way to explore that and get into that and potentially make some revenue off of this this new media. But there's just so many things out there that people are putting up with that we never used to, and all of these game studios are winning because they're conditioning all of you for this to just be okay and acceptable, and it never used to be. Never. Like, it, and they just kept doing it for so long and kept putting up with all the shit that now we've just come to expect or be happy if they do something remotely right at all. And I don't like it, man. I miss when you know, we had good games and the backlash was real and they lost money because of releasing half-baked shit games. And the competition, and there's just everything about it. Like, it doesn't feel like the same game industry anymore, and it doesn't feel like the same games anymore. And I miss those old games, man. I really miss them because they just felt like they were being put to a higher standard. And I think that's just the truth. I think video games today are being measured to a lower standard than what they used to before, when these games were first coming out. Well, not really first coming out, but that, you know, that whole wave, you know, that 360 wave, you know, the early Xbox One even, you know, it I don't know. It just felt like people actually wanted to and cared about it, and then people realized how much money the video games could make, and then everything changed. Yeah, that's all of those caught up. Oh man. Tired today. Wingman 1.55. Havoc 1. Spitfire. Same as the A10 is 160. P20 is way up at 1.7. Or Devotion around the 1.75. Okay. So, Wingman, we want a 5.5. So 4. Oh, nope, it's going to be 5. 4 shots 1.38, 5 shots is 1.8. That's what's got to happen. So, got to take an extra shot to the leg, which means a 1.8 TK, which is lone as fuck. But that's what's going to happen. So, 5 shots. The Havoc, we want to have a 1.54 to 1. Whatever. So 15. Yep, 15 shots. So that'll be 1.52. The Spitfire, we want to have a 5.5 1.59. So probably 7 shots, 9 shots, 8 shots, 1.53. That'll do. Havoc and the Spitfire have the same limb. That's good. That's good. The A10 1.6. Oh, we have the P20 1.7. What would that be? 12, 11. Yep. No. What do 12? What would be 1.8? The Devotion. Oh no, Archimedes 10. Okay, here we go. 1.6. That's probably like 30 shots. Yeah. 29 maybe. 0.62. Yeah, 1. That'll do. And then the Devotion. This will do 1.7. 20, 1.72, 21, 1.78. Perfect. Okay. Righty. Let's figure how that goes into here. The Wingman is all the way at 1.8 because there's nothing we can do about that. So that's a pretty big disparity. The Havoc is up at 1.52, so it is right there at 1.52. The Spitfire is also there at 5.3. So a little bit different than what we planned, but close enough. The A10 is at 1.62, which is right there, exactly as we planned. The P2020 is all the way up at 1.82. So not quite where we planned, but that's okay that it's worse. The Devotion's at 1.78, which is exactly where we planned it. So that'll be there. And that'll make the Devotion pre-fire a certain thing as well, because we want to look at the limb is 21. So Devotion pre, this should be equal to, oh, these time to kills need to be changed, but this will be equal to the Devotion. -7. So there's that. So now that's 14. And then this time to kill is this plus 0.8. Or, oh, wait a minute. That's the other way around. Hold on. Hold on. Wait. Yeah, it's the other way around, isn't it? It's the way around, where this is equal to the number of shot, because that's pre-fire. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is the one that, let me double check that with the body. Is the devotion one that is the weird time to kill with the plus 0.8. Yes. Okay, so it's equal to, this is equal to that shot to kill minus 7. Okay. So I did this the wrong way around. So this needs to be equal to this shot to kill here minus 7. And then this time to kill is equal to that plus 0.8. So that's how we do that. So 0.72 devotion pre-fire here. So if this goes up to 28, then that's too high. If I make this 21, then that's too high. So 20, nope. 19, nope. 13's too low. 15, yeah, there we go. 1.72, that's close enough. 16, 1.78, there we go. Okay, 1.78, perfect. So 16 shots there fixes that. So this is going to be equal to all of that along the way, because it's just up, the same thing up. This doesn't matter, I don't think, but we'll just make this equal to that just to make sure. So that'll do that, and then this all needs to have plus 0.8 in the time to kill. Okay. That handles the devotion and the devotion pre-fire. That also makes the devotion pre-fire 1.45 limb. That puts that there, which is perfect. That fits in very nicely. And this is that's good too. That's exactly what I didn't see. If I had the hemlock like way up here, it just wouldn't, that wouldn't work. But this, now the hemlock is very comfortably within the devotion to the leg, which is nice. So that should basically always win. And then that's it. So then we're just gonna take this category, move on, and get all these numbers situated and figure out what the multipliers need to be now. So we've got the devotion here that we're gonna deal with. So 16 shots. 16 shots is not possible. Yeah, 11 makes it 17. 10 makes it 18. And 12 makes it 15. So 16 shots is not possible. So it has to be 15 or it has to be 17. At this health value, 16 shots is not possible. So if I put this to 15, it goes to 1.72. If it goes to 17, then that goes to 1.85. So it's going to have to go down to 15. And then 1.72 will have to be the damage here. So just goes, oh, god damn it. Here we go. And to hit cut, by the way. That's still reasonable. That's still reasonable. And still good. So that's no big deal. The 1.72 it is. Obviously, you can still shoot them 16 times, but what that means is that 16 shots isn't like a full kill per se. So if we wanted to, like, if this was 13 damage or sorry, if this was 11 damage, you can shoot them 16 times, but it won't be a kill. So a 16 shot kill isn't possible. You can still shoot them 16 times or still be weak. It'll still do damage. It's not like that's not what this means. It just means that if I did 11 damage, it would take you 17 shots to kill. And if I do 12 damage, then it does 15 shots to kill. There's not like it's a perfect amount. If the health pool was bigger, then that would be different. If it was like 185 health, then 12 would make 16 shots. But because of the health that this is targeting, it's 15 or 17. There is no 16 shot kill. 16 shots would either not kill or it would have already killed on the 15th. So that's what all of that means. So it does 12 right now. We have to make the 14. We have to make it do 12. So that's probably 0.9, 0.85. Yeah, 0.87. A bit more precise. Yep. And then that'll be 10 there, which is going to make this 17, 20, 15, 18, 14, 16, 12, and 14. Those are those time to kills. The Hemlock, we already did. The Wingman is a 5-shot, which means that it has to do somewhere between 36 and 44 damage. So we're going to play with some of that. If it was 36, then that would be very punishing against the higher levels. And it would also make Fortified a bit too weak. So let's play with this a bit, where 0.8 would make it 36 exactly, but it would make so no matter what we do, it's going to be a 5-shot for Fortified because it's already at 38. So unless I have it be like the stupidest, most minor thing, there's nothing we can do about Fortified going up to 5. But we can prevent Fortified from going to 6, I believe, because a 6-shot kill would be 30 to 35. Nope, it's going to be a 6-shot against yeah, it's going to be 6-shot, maybe even 7 here. So to keep that high skill with the Wingman, I guess we'll just keep doing this because there's no version of us making it like not impactful, but not of it making it meaningful, but not impactful to Fortified. It's just going to be a 7-shot here. There's nothing I can do about that. Yeah, it's just how the Wingman's going to go, and that's fine because it should be a higher skill weapon. So it's okay that it has a horrendous time to kill against Fortified Legends because that's what's going to keep it a skill based weapon. Is don't shoot them below the hip and you'll be okay, which is how it goes now too. That's no different than the Wingman currently. So that's fine. This is the Havoc, which is going to be the same as the Havoc pre-fire. So I don't know why that's not just the same, because this is not any different. Oh, it's because it's a new sheet. That's why. So this is all going to be the same. Oh, damn. Yep. Yep, that's all going to be the same, which is going to affect this time to kills. But oh, what we didn't, this doesn't have the right equation too, so that's fine. I'm sure some people probably saw me doing that and were like, dude, what are you doing? That's not what you should be doing. And I apologize, but I've had a long day. So we're doing our best. And if it takes a couple tries, that's just how it's going to be today. So Havoc without pre-fire is 147, which is not as bad as 152. We were hoping to have it be 152, but that's pretty damn close. So I guess it's not that big a deal. 152 goes to 147, which brings us down another block. Yeah. Okay. That's still, that's not bad. Brings it faster than the Spitfire, still slower than everything else. Realistically, that's totally fine. Nothing that needs to get fixed, nothing that needs to get changed. That's no big deal. The limb, perfect. That's good. This has to go to 8. And 8 shots means 23 to 25. We're going to make that 23 for sure. And then that'll make Fortified Legends a good counter to this as well. We're going to do 0.88 so that it goes to 23 rounding up and then 19 rounding down. because again, we want fortified to be a punishment for the Spitfire. We want those legends to do well against this weapon, so that means having a longer time to kill, which will make it a bit more sporadic in its use, and it won't feel so consistent and dependable. So that's going to be a huge thing to really help distinguish it from other weapons. And we still keep it at 1.53, so that's good. And then the P2020, we have at 0.82, which is 12 shots, and 12 shots means 15 damage. 15 to 16, we'll do 15 again for fortified. So that'll be probably 0.8, 0.9, 0.85. Yeah, we'll even go lower than that. We'll do 0.83. And that'll round up and then round down. So 13, 14, 16, 12, 14, 11, 13, 10, 11. There we go. And then the Archimedes 10. This won't matter too much because it's such a low damage weapon that it's not going to be really possible for it to do more than one profile. So as long as it does 29 damage, I don't even have a target for that on my cheat sheet because it's just so high. 6. Yeah, it's gonna have to be higher than that. 6 damage will make it do 30, which puts it at 1.67. That's reasonable. If I had it do 5 damage, 36 shots would make this egregious and way too high. So 6 damage it is, which would make the profile probably like 0.9. Yeah, and then that'll go down to 5. Wow. That'll go all the way out to 5. No kidding. That is a huge time to kill. 36. Yeah, that's huge against Fortified. This is not going to be a good gun for Fortified Legends at all. Those are really long time to kills. But it does have a 20 rate of fire. So it's going to take a lot of your mag, but it's going to happen pretty quick. Like, it's going to feel super strong because of the rate of fire. And it'll be a more forgiving time to kill, so you're more likely to get a time to kill super close to this versus one super far away from this because the 19.5 rate of fire. This is basically if the R9 was an LMG. That's all I made. I made the R9 an LMG and called it the Archimedes 10. That's what this is, and it'll have that vibe to back it up, but it won't be the strongest killing gun in the game. And that 5 damage for fortified is going to be huge because it's not a lot of damage. It's going to take a lot of rounds to put them down. A lot. I mean, that's 40 rounds at 200 health. That's insane. But 1.67. Anyway, we need to update that. 1.62 to 1.67. And that just goes up one more. So that's still very well placed in the meta. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. But interesting. The devotion we already did, so that's okay. That headshot multiplier is going to equal the other one. So we'll just have that equal that. There we go. Sorry, this is limb fall off. And then that's it. That's the whole weapon class. So we're going to be moving into everything else. And anvils, actually, we'll go ahead and do now because that's going to be equal to this. So we'll do that. Now. And yeah, that times 2, that times 2. So this is actually going to be just equal to that times 2 as well. So do I have that equal to? Oh, it's equaling body. Okay, so this is going to be equal to that. So if I just put this here, put that there, then that's equal to that, and then times 2. That'll deal with this. To deal with those equations, then it won't be exactly the same shots to kill. But this will be 5, 6, 5, 6, 4, 5, 4, 5. And this will be 5, 5, 6, 5, 7, 6, 8, 6. Yeah. Well, that's interesting that the flat lines are somehow doing more. The R31 anvil is doing more than the flat line. That's weird. Oh, it's a higher headshot multiplier. So okay. Was the flatline fortified? Oh, so that's, I keep saying headshot multiplier. Limb multiplier. Limb multiplier. So the flatline is doing 14 and 17. Then the R3 is doing 11 and 13. So that's not correct. 14, 17, that is correct, but this isn't correct. This needs to go to that. Times 2. There we go. So that goes to 8. That goes to 10. 7, 9, 7, 8, 6, and 7. That is better. That's better. So that's a very slow time to kill. That's kind of what we want here. So, and that's not subject to change at the moment. So this is just as is right now. So flatline anvils is 1.97 and R3 anvils is 1.73. Let's check out where that fits. So flatline anvils, I wanted that around 1.9. That's up at 1.97, so it's right there. That's very, very close to where I had it planned on going. Gotta admit, that had me a little scared because that sounded like it was really high for what I was planning, but it actually is apparently right where I planned it. And then this was 1.73, which is way down here. Wait, what? That's the same as the time to kill to the body. You're kidding. 1.73. Why is there not enough limb fall off there? I guess it's because it's a 0.95 reduction. So 2226 doesn't actually affect the shot to kill that much. Is that 7? That's 10. That's 8. That's 9. That's 7. Yeah, wow. Okay. Well, apparently, that's what's happening here. I don't know if I like that. That's a huge advantage for the R301 anvils. Granted, it's not the same headshot time to kill as the flatline, but for them to not have any limb fall off is pretty big. Especially considering what I'm going to do with the rest of the guns in this class. That's a pretty big advantage for the R3, where hitting the legs at what's supposed to be a precision instrument is not punishing your time to kill value. That's interesting. That's not what I expected. And for the flatlines to be punishing it so hard, that's especially for when it comes to which one you would use overall. That means the flatline anvils are not going to have a huge place compared to the R3s. So I don't know if I like that. I could change the multiplier to the body. No. I could make the time to kill longer on R3. I could change the multiplier. Instead of it being a 2 times multiplier, I could make it a like a 1.7 only on the R3, which would give it a slower time to kill value overall, but it would have no limb fall off. But it would have to be slower than the longbow. Didn't really want that. So I guess you could see that as a pro, and the muzzle velocity can be the way that we reel that back in, for sure, how we reel that back in, and make it not as viable as the rest of them. So in the end, we can fix that. We don't have to change the whole weapon meta because of that. And it doesn't have a great headshot potential for time to kill. So that's nice as well, that it doesn't have the same headshot potential as the G7 or even the flatline anvil. So that's kind of nice, but you might be seeing people use the flatline anvils, the R301 anvil over the triple take. But again, higher power optic, better muzzle velocity, better range. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It is weird, and I don't like it, but I can still fix it in other ways that don't ruin the work I already put down. So I'm going to keep rolling, but that is a red flag. I'll keep my eye on it, and I'll see if I can develop that in the meta. We'll see how the anvils end up scoring overall because of that. And if it's too high on the list, then we'll figure out a way to nerf it. But for now, I'm going to be moving on. For now, I will absolutely be moving on. And we need to get into the... Oh, I actually need to go back to this page and make sure I write down this stuff, because the 3030 needs to have a target of 1. 30 has a target of 1.85. The G7 has a target of 2 to 2. And the longbow has a target 0.25 to 2. And the charge rifle doesn't have a limb reduction. The Kraber will not have a limb reduction. And the Sentinel Anvil likely will not have a limb reduction. That actually might have a leg. That will have a leg reduction for sure. So Sentinel Anvils we'll have to figure out. The Sentinel, I don't have a target for that yet. So the Sentinel, that should take a good bit longer. We'll add on another shot to kill, and we'll see how that works out. The Sentinel, we're gonna fly by the seat of our pants. Triple Take Choke doesn't have a reduction, and the charge rifle with no beam doesn't have a reduction. So it's just the Sentinel Anvil with the longbow, the G7, and the 3030. Those are the only gun stuffs. And then we're done with limb damages. Will be nice. We'll finish that probably by the 2.5 hour mark, I'd say, if we can avoid rants. So 3030. Heirloom, dealing with a target of 1.5. 1.84. That's pretty good. 6 shots will obviously be way too high, so 5 shots is perfect. So 1.84 will kill. E7, we're looking at a time 2.5 to 2.29. So 8 shots and 9 shots. 9 shots. Perfect. 2.7. Yep. And the... Oh, sorry, that's the longbow. The G7 motherfucker is right there at 2.04. The longbow needs a time to kill at 2.2. Yep, there we go. There we go. So 3030 we said was 1.84, which is right there. The G7 we said was at 2.04, which is exactly right there. And the longbow is exactly right there at 2.27. And then the Sentinel we need to deal with as well. So 3030, 5 shots. 5 shots means 44 to 36. We will have that do probably 40 damage. Probably 40 damage. And then that will keep the longbow. Yeah, if we did 40 damage, what would that make fortified? If we had that go to 40, that would make that go to 38. 38 is enough to still be a 5-shot kill as fortified. And this is an heirloom gun, so I'm going to let that slide because it's heirloom. I think because it's heirloom, it should have consistency against regular ANS fortified legends. So that is why I'm okay with it being 38. So that way it's 5 and 6 at 200, 5 and 5 at 180, and then 4 and 5 here, and then 4 and 4 there. So it's going to be a lot more consistent and predictable especially to the leg, than other guns because this is heirloom. The G7 is not heirloom, so that's where it's gonna, you know, be more punishing. Our 8-shot potential means that we have to be between 25 and 23. I will probably have that be like 24, I'd say. 5.8, 0.7, 0.6, 0.65. That's 23.65. 0.68. Yeah. Okay. Well, 20 is enough to go all the way to a 9-shot kill, and 19 would make it a 10-shot kill. Is there a version of this where at 0.65 it goes down to 19? No. No, it'd have to go even lower, and then we'd have to really force that. So I don't think that we will do that. So no matter what we do, it's going to be 20. We'll do 0.68, and we'll make it 20 and 24. That way it's 9 and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and 7. And that will do. And then double tap is going to have its own thing that we have to calculate as well. So double tap is just going to be this, that times 2. So there we go. And then this would be 5 bursts, 5 bursts, 4 bursts, 5 bursts, 4, 4, 3, and 4. That isn't going to matter. Oh, wait, no, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, okay. And then these time to kills are going to be a little bit different here. And then this is going to be equal to that. And how do we doing this way? We grab this guy. Such a pain in the ass. This is said a million times. I fucking hate doing that. Fucking hate this. This is annoying as shit. So this is the equation. This is the rate of fire here. So in this equation, it's what, H109. Okay. 109. And then that was the G187. So everywhere you saw that, that needs to become H109. Okay. And then this is the aim down sight time here, which is the equivalent of K109. K109 there. And then this is the shots to kill. So that needs to be L109. There. There we go. And this is only 7 shots instead of 8, so that's why it has the minus for the equation here. So that is correct as is. Nothing needs to be changed. This does not need the 1 minus because it's 6 shots. It takes all of them. And then this needs to go from L to M to match the correct thing. And then that's perfect. This doesn't need it either. Fun. Go far enough. Bye-bye. This needs to go from L to P. Then L to P. And this is 8 shots, so it doesn't need that. This does need it. So there's that. This needs to go from P to Q. P. And it does need that, so that one's done. And this one does need it. And L needs to get turned into E. And this one does not need it. And P to U. Oh. And this one does not need it. And That goes to X. Perfect. And this one does need it. And X should go to Y. Okay. Oh. Okay. So there's that. Triple take. Why is triple take not? Oh, triple take is there's still a reduction, but it's not affecting the time to kill, so it should still be a 3-shot kill. So 3-shot kill means it can go from 60 to 89. It's at 66, so this is just going to go to 60 to make sure that fortified legends have a barrier against that. There we go. So 60 and 51, so that will make the time to kill go up against fortified legends, which is good because they're big chunky targets and it needs to be longer, so it'll keep a very long time to kill at the higher health, which is exactly what we want, about keeping the same time to kill there. So very low limb fall off, but very noticeable on a very impactful, rather, maybe not noticeable but impactful on fortified legends. Unless your team's shooting, then it's probably still going to be 3 shots, but if it's just you, it's going to reduce your effectiveness against fortified legends, which is the point. We want it to be reduced effectiveness if it is just you. Good lord, if I could talk, it would be great. The 2-shot is still, you know, this is going to be like probably 114, the same it is right now. So 116 and 98, that's enough. You know what, that's not okay, because fortified legends at 200 would take 3 shots, which is never okay. So we'll probably do that, so that it's 104 and 123. Or should we do 0.82? 0.82 is enough to make it exactly 100 damage, and then have it be 119. That's perfect. So always a 2-shot to the feet and barely getting away with it. So barely getting away with it. So there's still the chance at this, at like where if you hit them in the chest and they get like a sell-off just in time, and then they take a 3rd shot, right? That's still a potential thing with the Kraber. So it's not gonna, you know, if I had to do like 120, like then that would be different. But because it's exactly at 100, there are going to be some circumstances where fortified legends get away with a 2-shot Kraber and survive. So that's going to be an important as well. I don't want it to be guaranteed. I definitely don't want it guaranteed, but I would like it to be an option. So we're not going to make it like super hard to do. That's reasonable difficulty to pull off, but if you can, then go you, man. Like, that's hard enough as it is. So this is all going to be the same. Nope. So that's all the same. So same things. It's just this has the extra choke times that need to get equated into it. So that'll be a thing. What's the equation for that? We have triple take, and then we have, oh no, that's regular. We need choke. Triple take choke. For you, there you are. So we're adding in this little bit here. That's the extra bit that calculates in everything. So I can just take this and do that. And then this is equal to L169. Just like that. And that will give me the value that I need. And then I just take that guy, probably the whole thing like that, and go here and hit paste and change from L to M. And that will give me that value. and hit paste and go from L to P. And then paste and go L to Q. And then here to T. Oh, great. I accidentally hit Command C, so I copied nothing. Is obviously not what I wanted. So. All right, so that takes care of the triple take, which is a massive time to kill. It's fucking massive. Sentinel Lombo is up next. Lombo is a 5-shot, which means 5-shot is 36 to 44. That's a pretty big reduction. We could go all the way down to 40. So that would be probably 0.7, 0.75, 0.73. There we go. And then 34. And 34 is enough to make that a 6-shot, which is fantastic. So super punishing to Fortified, which is, again, the goal. We want Fortified to be a fantastic counter to snipers because they're so chonky. So there is that. Longbow, nice and solidified as a decent DMR, but not doing quite great. The Sentinel right now should kill in 2.05. To the legs, we're going to make that take another shot. At least one more shot. 2 more shots would be kind of ludicrous, so we're going to have it take 4 shots. So that'll help the thing too. So 4 shots means 45 to 59, so we'll have it do 50 to the body. If not 55 to the leg, it'll be the same as the Lombo. We'll have it do 55, because 82 down to 55 is already a huge damage drop off, so that'll be enough for sure. And it will ensure on a flash target that it's 2 shots. 50 would too, but I think even with Fortified, it will still ensure what we want it to. Not quite. That'll do. So 55 and 47. So not quite. They're going to have some room to get away for sure. 4 and 4, 3 and 4, 3 and 3. Okay. And that's pretty healthy. The Sentinel with Anvils is going to go through the same limb reduction. So there's that, which would make this 70 and 60, which is good for 3 and 4, 3 and 3. That's good. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. 3 and 3 and 2 and 3. Okay. Okay, because at 2 shots is what it kills in right now. So making it take 1 more shot was perfect. With that Fortified red is a huge disadvantage. 4 shots to the legs against Fortified Legends at 200. That is a massive time to kill. Absolutely massive. 4.45 is already massive, but that 4th shot taking 6.5 seconds, that's huge. Huge. So there we go. Oh, is that everything? This has a 1, so that's not a thing. The charge rifle doesn't have limb fall off. So that's not a thing. Which also means this isn't a thing. So there's that. And then this kind of doesn't have limb fall off. It's still important to keep it here, but this kind of doesn't have limb fall off either. Lombo. Yeah. There we go. And then I can just go to limb print and remove the charge rifle because that was an oversight. And we're done. Yeah, see, there's the reference cells for charge rifle that are acting up, so those are gone. And that's is gone. and then I can do command print and make sure that these print the same way that they're supposed to. That's a page, perfect. And then this is a page here, so these cells need to be inserted. There we go. And then we can go down here and delete that. And delete that. And save. Okay. So that is all of the limb TTKs that we can now implement. I think I do need to... No, it's right. I just put it all the way at the top. It's so much extra work. It makes the whole thing so much smaller that it's not worth it. So having this extra room to put stuff that's like super far off, like the Kraber is still this, so that's fine. The triple take choke is still this, so that's fine. Charge is still that, but the Sentinel goes from 2 to 2.45. I think it's actually fairly reasonable. Oh, I didn't write it down. It would help if I wrote it down, wouldn't it? I think it would. I don't know why I would want to, but it would probably help. So triple take, longbow, 2.27. We redid that. Sentinel is 2.85. The Sentinel Anvil is 4.45. So 2.85 is fairly reasonable, but that's still above the chart here. So that is still going to go way up here. God damn it. Way up here and say 2.85. And then the charge doesn't have one. The longbow's at 2.27. The Sentinel Anvil way up here is all the way up to 4.45. So that won't have a box to show that it's a really high value. This is to show it's pretty close. So 2.85. And then the R31 anvils is right there. The triple take is right there. The flatline anvils are right there. G7 double tap. We have to get the right TTK for. What was the G7 double tap? G7 double tap was 2.02. Okay. And yeah, that's everything. That is, I think that's officially every weapons TTK at 180. I think that's checkpoint reached. So that is how, oh man, that's how that would go. Oh man, need to stretch. Oh. Oh, that took a long time. That took a really long time. How many hours are we up to on that? That took like... all right. So we're at 2 hours today, plus all of the other time, which I have now put into a collection. So at the time for me. We've spent 17 and a half hours on the in-work progress, plus another 2. So it took us about 20 hours of work to get all the way through this. And this is how many days? This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th day. So in case you're wondering, like, how much work all of the rest of this shit was, I didn't even have to make these fucking forms, right? Like, this, it took 5 days and 20 hours just to get the numbers back. Like, I didn't even make this form, right? I didn't color code this. I didn't do any, like, we didn't even finish shotguns. Like, I didn't have to make the body print. I didn't, like, that wasn't even on stream. There was more of that shit I did off stream, right? The class roar shit, I made most of this before the stream started. You know, if you want to think about the how long it would take to make all these graphs and shit, the fact that I had to make the reload times the way that I did, like we were at 20 hours and 5 days, and all we did was get one health value charted out and made. Like we have the other values written down on the Excel because we had it auto make the rest of them while we did all of this. But like all we really did was flesh out an end game meta, and we haven't even figured out if this is going to work. All we did was put numbers on paper. Like, this should work in theory. Like, of course it should. Like, this looks fantastic. It's a good graph. You can see that there's some high skill weapons, some low skill weapons. Everything's fairly tight together. There's a little bit of dynamic, you know, it's fairly dynamic in every way that it can be. There's some guns that have some pretty cool pros and cons. You know, there's all of that. That's all here. It's all showing, but we have no idea if this is even going to work, because we don't know how they compare to each other. So that's a lot of work to do as well. We have to figure out how they compare, what is doing super well, what isn't doing super well, and make sure that there's some kind of hierarchy going on here. Make sure that the pre-fire and not pre-fire options of guns are spread far enough apart. Stuff like that. Like, there's a lot to do. Shotguns have to get done. I can't stand the shotguns. They're so annoying. There's so much work that you have to do, like, all at once, and like the pellet spread and everything. Like, it's a pain. It's range. I need to know ranges and stuff. Like, realistically, I'll probably save shotguns to the very, 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 very end, so that I can get the muzzle velocities of all of this stuff sorted out, so I can figure out effective ranges, then figure out what would be fair for shotguns and what shotguns need to do what. I don't want shotguns having 5-meter ranges. That's so fucking dumb. So I know I want them all to have at least a 10-meter range. I know that. And then from there, they need to have better ranges depending on what shotgun it is and what the choke is going to do and all those kind of things. So that is what I have at the moment. I don't know what else we're going to do today. I'm pretty tired, so I think we're going to call this one an end now, and just mark that as finishing off all of this stuff. We have all the limb damages now done. We have the head damages now done. We've got all that ready. And the class rolls are done. I think what we're going to start doing now is probably fill in the 180 mark with everything. This is the 180 chart where we rank everything. Oh, I can't rank everything until we have shotgun data. Fuck. Can I rank everything without shotgun data? I could. It wouldn't be as accurate, but I could. I could rank everything, but that's so much work. Ranking all that, that's so much work to do all those rank options. It's like I have to do all that by hand. I have to go through and organize everything from increasing to from decreasing to increasing, or in increasing values, which I kind of already did, but not quite. And then I have to go through and assign all those ranks, and then do that like in different spots, and like it's a lot of work to do all of that. I might be able to come up with a form that will do it a bit easier, but it's not great. It's not great. So I'd like to only have to do that once, and it would be nice to know where the shotguns fit into that as well, because if I do the shotguns, I have to do it more. I'm gonna have to do it more, but I don't want to do that. That's so much work. And especially not right now. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel like doing it, but I don't feel like doing that today. Detailed build I'm not touching. The charts are the very last things. The overall, this is the end game chart. This is what my previous build was, and this doesn't even make it look good. I could try to make it look better, but that's a fucking mess. That's a complete fucking mess. It's all over the place. I'd already, between this and my other chart, I prefer it. I've got shotguns too strong in this too. They're super weak and super strong, and I don't want to do that anymore. These are all too fast. If you thought that what I'm doing right now is too fast, this is all too fast for you. Definitely all too fast for you. Those are surprisingly slow, but that's actually kind of where I have some of my stuff now. This is close. This is close to what I have now, but not quite. Not quite. What I have now is better. What I have now is way better. I don't know why I did all this. What I did this time is way better. Yeah, all of this beating all of this with the G7 being so strong. This is this is all crap. And this isn't even doing anything important right now. I don't like any of that. I don't like any of that anymore. That's this is why I let it sit instead of finishing it. If I didn't let that sit the way that I did, if I didn't start playing the game again and doing all these things, like it just wasn't. That was just all bad, all bad. I don't like the hierarchy that I did. I don't like the gaps that I made. I don't like where I put certain classes and everything. So this work through is already a huge 2.0 compared to what I did before. Huge 2.0 to what I did before. What I did before would have been okay. It's not that it was complete trash, but what it would have just done is sped up the time to kill. It wouldn't have actually fixed a lot of the issues. A lot of the issues that Apex currently has, I just saw in that. So what I was hoping to do and what I did were two different things. I didn't really fix a lot of the issues. I just made the time to kill faster, and that's not good. That's what Apex did when they reduced the body shield health by 25, and then everyone tried to kill them. So that gun rework was never gonna work. It had a good evolution to it, as what was good, what was bad, stuff like that. Like all this stuff worked out really well, which has reinforced my opinion of it being better. But having time to sit back on it and redo the work, truly redo the work, and not be dependent on fixing values that I already put in, and not just trying to tweak everything over again, I think that was the right move. And so I think that led to a much better rework and a much better starting place than what I had before. So I'm really hopeful for the second time around, because that first attempt was my actual first attempt. I've never really done this before, so a lot of mistakes got made, and I didn't totally see all of them, but now I'm seeing a few of them. So I'm bound to make more mistakes. There's definitely gonna be some mistakes in here for what I already did, but it's gonna be better. Oh, this is actually equal to those spaces. Is it really? No kidding. It's actually equal to here. Okay. Interesting. Okay. That's what I did there. That makes that a hell of a lot easier. But yeah, those comparisons are going to be the last thing I do. I will need to make these, but I need to do them later. The muzzle velocity, that's going to be a thing that we could probably work on again. Then we could do the charts. That'd be a bit faster. The detailed build, I'm not totally sure I want to do. I move that out of the way. This is so far what we're working on here. This is the main build for 180. We've got class rules, which we're not really going to look at a whole lot. That can go all the way there. And then we've got the head print, the body print, and the limb prints all the way down here. So we'll put the print versions like that too. And then the reload time to kill, that's a big one. Okay. So, and then this could get renamed. This is just PTK for 180. And so the muzzle velocity is going to be there. We've got a comparison chart here. And then reloads we have to do too. We could start formatting the reload thing. So we're gonna do an end to the episode, and I'm gonna I'll probably mute my mic, and we'll call this an end. So we're gonna go ahead and do the get the fuck out screen. I'm gonna take off my headset and put on some music. I'll still be paying attention to chat, but I need to do something different than what I'm doing right now. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna end the stream. Fuck it. I don't even care. No, none of the people are here. It's fine. Fuck it. We're ending the stream. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you all watching the series and keeping an eye on what we're doing. Hopefully this is interesting. Hopefully some of this is making sense. Apologies for the rants. I'm trying to not, but this game has been plucking that string for 2 fucking years, and I've tried to be so patient with it getting better. I've tried to not get too emotional or attached to this game, but it's a cool fucking game, guys. I mean, I know, like, if you're here watching this, it's because you care too. And I care enough about Apex to fix it, and I care enough about it to be blunt with what's wrong. I'm not gonna just turn a blind eye to these issues and pretend like it's an awesome game. It's a really cool, interesting game with amazing lore and amazing characters and interesting abilities that are so close to having that depth that I want from a game. And in fact, I would argue that Apex has been so successful that now Battlefield is becoming more like Apex, because Battlefield has never had a specialist system, and if it wasn't for Warzone and Apex, that would never happen. So do not underestimate the influence that Apex has, but that doesn't mean that Apex is perfect, okay? It doesn't mean that Apex is this amazing, flawless game that is, there's other issues than DDoSing. There's other issues than the ranked brackets. There's core issues to how the game plays that I would like to address, that I feel I have addressed, and that's where the bigger issue for Apex for me is. Obviously, it would be great if the servers did more than 20 hertz. Obviously, it would be great if the rank system changed. Obviously, it would be great if they could fix the DDoSing issue that I haven't been experiencing much at all, but that apparently everyone else is experiencing. But for me, what makes Apex unbearable on top of all of that is the fact that I have to use the same 4 guns every game. There's just no realistic option. It's either use those 4 guns or you just get fucked. You just get fucked. Like, I have such a hard time actually competing, even if I do everything I'm supposed to do right. If I use a non-meta gun, I get killed. And so there is no situation to frame myself in with non-meta guns because of why they're non-meta. So I want to fix the issues with why things are non-meta so that you can use a different and wider array of weapons. And the time to kill is phase 1, but phase 2 is ammo capacity. Phase 3 is muzzle velocity. There's a lot of other things that need to change. So that's where I stand with it. If you guys want to have a PDF of the Word document that I have added changes to, then that's in the Discord, so please come by the chat or use one of the links to use ! Discord in the chat, and that will give you a link to the Discord server. So just like that, link to the Discord server through Moobot, and the Twitch series is under the name Apex Fan Rework in the collection. So if you want to look at the Apex Fan Rework collection through Twitch, you can filter that collection out on the video tab, and then that collection will have 5 episodes covering everything on that Word document and going over why. We do a little bit of live work on that too, some changes as we discuss it. And then the other series, if you want to watch the rest of this episode of this series, of the other 4 days that we've been working on the in progress rework, then that would be the in progress rework. So the 17 hours now going to go up to like 20 hours of content. The larger of the two collections is going to be the Excel work, and you should be able to see the thumbnails of it showing graphs and Excel plot points and stuff, and you can see how we got from where we are now to where we began with nothing. We started with absolutely nothing and got to where we are now. So that will be the in progress collection. Please feel free to check out all of those. Every episode has something unique in it, so if you want to know every single detail, you're going to want to watch all of them. Don't go off just the view count. I don't know why people watch episodes more than the other. No one tells me what they liked about them, so I just do this, what I think is the same thing every time. So there's that. Yeah, that's basically it. So thanks everyone for coming by, appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys in the next stream, which will be probably tomorrow at 2. We're trying to go daily by 2 o'clock, 2 to 3 o'clock. We're trying to go daily, and then weekends at 11 we do Trailmakers. So there's that. So that's the schedule for everyone. Hope you guys have a good day, and don't forget to check out the rest of the series and support the community any place you can. Bye bye.